Welcome to the Austin Forum Upload, where we explore pervasive and emerging technologies and their influence and impact on society.
In this series, we upload direct to you information, opinions, and insights from thought leaders, experts, and creatives from Austin and beyond.
They'll share their perspectives through conversations, interviews, debates, discussion, and more.
I'm Jay.
I'm John.
And I'm Huli. And we co-produce the upload for the Austin Forum on Technology and Society. Today, we're privileged to welcome Melly Price, Managing Director of the Texas Health Co-Lab at the Dell Medical School at UT Austin. She's also co-founder at Capital Factory, continues to mentor people there. She's the founder of SoftMatch, a diversity and inclusion expert. So much more than we can even talk about today, but welcome, Melly.
Thank you, Huli.
Thank you for being here. We've got so much, there's so much I want to ask you about the Texas Health Co-Lab, about Dell Medical School, about innovation and technology. But before we get started, how did you end up here? Those people who follow Austin News probably remember you as one of the founders of Frontgate Tickets, which was a huge innovation of its own. When that happened, you've got all these tendrils throughout the community in health, technology, inclusion, mentoring, service. How did you end up where you are now?
Yeah, I got a few of those questions when the announcement came out that I was going to go be an employee at the University of Texas. So it's actually a fun story how I got there. So I moved to Austin almost 30 years ago to go to school at the University of Texas, and I have my bachelor in science in biology. So I'm a scientist. Most people don't know that about me. I came here to study oak wilt and wanted to be a researcher. So at whatever the ripe age of teenage, early 20s, I was working in a lab whittling sticks because my job was to run what was called a protein assay to see if we could isolate a fungus to determine if a tree had oak wilt. Wow. And so I was making $7.65 an hour working in a research lab, and saw myself on a fast track to no place exciting. So I actually started to teach myself to program, and thus began a long technology career. And here we are, 25 years later. I've come full circle to something I love, which is science and health. There was not a lot of options back then for young people who studied natural sciences to work in business, or entrepreneurship wasn't really a thing yet. Mm-hmm. And so I feel like I'm finally coming back home, and the medical school is a great place to do what I love, which is launch companies, utilize technology, and work in science. So it's perfect for me.
Well, that's fascinating, because when we think of medical schools, that's not necessarily what people think of. You think of residents working all night and laying down in the doctor's lounge and hoping that that's not the physician you're going to get doing your surgery, somebody who's sleep deprived. But you're painting an entirely different picture of what healthcare is now and what the future of medicine might be. What makes the Dell Medical School at UT Austin so different from what we've seen on TV and the stories we make up about medical school?
Well, what attracted me to the medical school was really the vision of our inaugural dean, Clay Johnston. His commitment is to what's called value-based care, and our focus is on improving patient outcomes, so making sure that patients have a great experience and that the outcomes of their care improve their lives, and doing that while lowering cost, whereas most medical schools and most medical ecosystems are focused on what's called fee-for-service care, which is where it's about taking care of a sick person, and the payment incentives and the business model of healthcare is about that rather than prevention and wellness. And so our focus on value-based care really is it's the beginning of transformation of the healthcare industry and the business of healthcare. And when you think about it, when you start to deliver care differently, then there's all kinds of tools that need to be built to provide that. And I'll give you a simple example, like scheduling. Mm-hmm. Right now, you and I, we go to the doctor, chances are there's a one patient to one doctor database that says you can see each other for 7 minutes. In a team-based model of care, which is optimized around the patient going and seeing the care and the providers that they need, you've got multiple practitioners providing care to one patient. Well, guess what? There's no scheduling tools to do that, or there's few scheduling tools. And so the opportunity for Del Med to create transformative products that change how we deliver care, while we're also working on the evidence that needs to happen in order for the insurance industry to come along and be willing to pay for care differently. All of that collectively is innovation. So we're building products and tools as one form of innovation. We're creating new models of care, like different ways of treating patients. And that's another form of innovation. So when we think of innovation inside Del Med, there's a clinical component, which is like literally, delivering care differently. And then there's a I don't want to say tech per se, but there's a whole bevy of things that need to be built in order to enable that. And that's the opportunity that's in front of not only Dell Medical School, but Austin and our tech community. So, when you ask why I'm there, it's because I think it's the next 50 years of really cool work in our community. And Del Med is just the beginning. It's really the hub of what's going to become a large ecosystem and a large industry.
It's so exciting to hear about a new medical school, the first Tier 1 medical school in 50 years in the United States, and you are completely shifting the conversation around the business model. You are, if I could say, looking at it from a design thinking perspective, in that the consumer is centered in the conversation and all of the solutions are built around meeting those needs rather than perhaps the needs of the business. Tell me more, though, about why Austin, presumably a new medical school, could go anywhere there's a Tier 1 university. Why is Austin a key?
Austin is a great place to have a new medical school that's focused on value-based care for a bunch of different reasons. The University of Texas has got one of the top computer science programs in the world. We've got an extraordinary business school, great nursing school, pharmacy, amazing engineering talent. And when you think about the transformation of healthcare, it really touches a lot of aspects of care. It's not just about a patient in a hospital. And our commitment to value-based care and improving patient outcomes and lowering the cost of care, well, the cost of care is influenced by all kinds of things, right? It's influenced by the life you lead before then. It's influenced by preventative care. It's influenced by what you do before you go into surgery, what you do after you go into surgery, how you live your life as an elderly person, right? So when you think about all the wraparound services, transforming healthcare is only a little bit about what happens in the clinic or in the hospital and a lot about what happens in society around that. So given that we are one of the top growing cities in the nation, we have the fastest aging over 50 population, Austin's really in sort of a crucible when it comes to the sweet spot of needing to transform healthcare, right, which is broken right now, and all the goodness we have in the tech sector. Right? We've got this amazing ecosystem, number one place to start a startup, lots of venture funding and early stage funding, great talent coming out of the university. So when you put those together, I really believe Austin is in a unique situation and a unique position, not only nationally, but worldwide, to be a place where we apply technology to improve health for, our community. And so that to me is one of the most exciting pieces. I could go on and on about it. So let me know where you want me to start or stop on that.
Well, I would love for you to dig into the Texas Health Collab and how that's an example of this philosophy.
Yeah, the Texas Health Collab is our umbrella for all of our innovation and entrepreneurship activity inside the medical school. And so the mission of the Collab is really to empower the innovators in our community to bring forth solutions and to partner with the medical school to create solutions that improve health for everyone. And what that means is that we're a medical school. We have deep clinical expertise. We can provide guidance on getting through the FDA process and the regulatory process. We have research. We have the capability to help people academically evidence, when something's working and when it's not. And that is something that, quite frankly, money can't buy, right? If you're an entrepreneur, you're a tech entrepreneur, and you're like, I want to work on this problem, being able to go to a partner to get those things done is so powerful to getting your product to market. And so the collab is about bringing those things together. We need the innovators that can build the solution. We need the subject matter expertise, and we need the ecosystem in which we can try and test and improve and iterate the products. And so that's what the collab is about.
I'd love to hear more about this intersection between innovation and tech and healthcare. I think is something that a lot of us haven't given much thought to, but it offers such rich potential to use data to make better decisions. Can you talk more about that?
Well, you know, in healthcare, we innovation is sort of siloed into devices and diagnostics and pharmaceuticals and, you know, digital health. And so a lot of times they get dumped into a bucket called health innovation or health tech. And when you really break it down, the life cycle of bioscience, which started as, you know, finding new molecules that became medicine, that model has shifted to now our focus is less on the new emerging molecules and more on how do we get the right product to the right person at the right time in their life. And that is a data-driven process, right? When we think about identifying or diagnosing on the diagnostic side of health innovation, how can we find things earlier? How can we find them more accurately? How can we treat them more accurately? How can we improve outcomes? All of that is a data-driven process. And so we've spent, you know, the last chunk of time in health as an industry creating medicine, and now we're figuring out how to get medicine to the right people at the right time in the right place, which is a really important new chapter for healthcare, because if we do that well, we do lower cost, and we do have patients who have better outcomes and live happier, healthier lives.
So with this revolution that's really happening at Texas Health CoLab and the Dell Medical School in terms of how healthcare delivery is conceived, what do you think is going to be the effect on Austin's larger tech sector once inspiration is loosed? You know, it's in the wild. It can go anywhere. So as you look in your crystal ball, what do you think might be happening in the tech sector?
Well, I think we're at the beginning of what will be a momentous change in Austin's history. I mean, quite frankly, that's one of the things that excites me about it the most. I think this is the next 50 years of, you know, in the same way that the semiconductor industry began to transform us in the 70s and the 80s. I really think we're sitting at the beginning of a huge transformation. You know, the medical school is the focus right now, but over time it becomes the hub. But there's a lot of spokes, right? So we've got the Innovation District, which is growing in the area in and around the medical district is to the north, and then the Innovation District is to the south. And so when you think about the opportunity that comes from a medical ecosystem, right? It's not just doctors seeing patients. It's businesses that are providing all kinds of solutions, devices, diagnostics, health solutions, direct to consumer. There's funding that goes with it. When you think about job creation, I mean, the projections for the medical school when it went up for a vote were roughly a $2 billion economic impact and 15,000 jobs. So some of that will be in traditional healthcare, and then a whole bunch of it will just be in the economic growth that comes from having a world-class medical ecosystem. So definitely excited about that. When you dive into the specifics of it, I personally would love to see us be the epicenter of digital health. We've got all the ingredients in Austin, Texas, right? We've got a long, rich history of technology-driven innovation. Other locations, San Diego, Boston, they do the bioscience thing. And so I think that we have a really unique niche here, and the opportunity is to really leverage that.
As we think about leveraging, I'm imagining we've got listeners who are working in a startup or have the spark of an idea inspired by what you said. You're a successful entrepreneur many times over. You mentor young businesses and emerging businesses frequently. What advice would you have for someone who's hearing this and getting energized by the idea of the future of healthcare and innovation? What would you tell that young person?
My my sage advice, take it for what it's worth. My advice is always make sure you're working on a pain that actually needs to be solved. So it's actually really hard to find a problem that needs to be solved that people will part ways with their money, right? There's a lot of problems out there that people would like to be solved, but whether or not they'll pay for it is what makes or breaks a company. And so that's actually one of our focuses at Texas Health CoLab is we work within the industry to help define what some of the pains are, and then we bring those forward to enable innovators to say, hey, I think I have a solution to help you find to solve that pain. So number one, find a pain that's worth solving. And number two is talk to the customer. I mean, you just can't do enough of that. It's great to get excited, and I'm the first to be like super excited about the opportunity that's in front of us. But you've got to talk to the people that are going to buy the product or service. It doesn't matter if you're making hardware or software or even just providing a service. You've got to talk to those people and you've got to listen to them, right? And doing those two things well, you're very likely to build a successful company. And, we touched on what's exciting about the next 50 years for Austin. They're not all going to be unicorns. They're not all going to be large companies. The coolest thing that could happen, in my opinion, is that we have a breadth of companies, small, medium, large, and that we create economic mobility in our community. The data shows that first-time entrepreneurs fail. The second and the third and the fourth often, have greater successes. And so as a tech ecosystem, I'd love to see us figure out how do we make those first-time entrepreneurs, how do we set them up so that they can get up a second time and a third time and go do it? And we need a continuum of companies to be able to do that. And I'd love to see, the next 50 years go down in history where people look back and, the brightest minds from anywhere in the world say, I want to go start my health tech company there because Austin has a great track record. They have an ecosystem that can help me start small, grow. And, when I have something that needs venture money to scale, that's available to me, right? That's the opportunity that's in front of us. We don't need to go be another Silicon Valley. We need to be in Austin, Texas, where we build them and we grow them and, they become successful.
And that goes right back to this philosophy of value-based care, of filling in these gaps in the marketplace, in filling in gaps of service. That what a ripe place for entrepreneurs to step up and look at healthcare differently for a change. Fill in those gaps with a custom, right-sized solution that creates even more jobs in Austin and lifts more people out into new economic opportunities.
Yeah. Not every job has to be a high-tech job. To be a valuable job. And so that, to me, that's one of the neat things about healthcare, right? A lot of our high-tech companies get grief, if you will, for only having a certain echelon of job availability. And healthcare really offers, I think, a broader spectrum and a broader set of jobs. So as somebody that's been in the community for 30 years, I'm really excited about the opportunity that health offers our community, on a bunch of different dimensions.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for sharing your perspective with us. It's so exciting to hear that there is not just a new medical school, but a new medical school that's based on new philosophy, new business model, new ideas, and that there's a place there for anyone who really wants to contribute. There's probably a way for them to make a difference and be of service.
Yeah.
So thank you, and thank you to the leadership at Dell Medical School for making that available to all of us in Austin. And we so appreciate your perspective on innovation, technology, and the human beings that those serve.
Well, thank you. Thanks for helping tell our story.
Thanks for listening to the Austin Forum Upload. You can listen to additional episodes and check out a schedule of our monthly in-person events at austinforum.org. The Upload is a production of the Austin Forum on Technology and Society, a nonprofit organization here in Austin, Texas.